Hi, I'm glad you're here to learn about the Ireland trip that a group from Community Christian Church just got back from a few weeks ago. I wanted to give you a little bit about the Zoom call that we were on. Unfortunately, it got cut off at the end. And so, one of the things I wanted to do right there at the end before we got cut off was to thank people who had given so generously so that this group could go to Ireland and experience what they experienced. And that means I wanted to thank you. You're more than likely a person that contributed or prayed or was aware that our kids and adults were going to Ireland, and you supported them. And so I want to say thank you for that. And with that, you have an idea of what you're going to get at the end. It just cuts off, and I'm sorry about that, but we were limited in our Zoom minutes, and so that's what happened. So thank you for being here. Now to the interview. Hey, I'm here with all of our Ireland trip attendees. They went to Ireland just a few weeks ago in July and have had a few weeks to process. I want to introduce everybody to you. Amy Drake, raise your hand. Emma Martin, raise your hand. Grayson Neiswanger, raise your hand. And JC Cousins, Kendall Armstrong, Bailey Harney, and Cal Cousins, who might be driving. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So let me start with this question, and I'm not sure who to ask first, but just why Ireland? Let's start there.
Kendall, go for it.
That's a Kindle question.
Yep. I'd say I think Ireland appealed the most to me because I liked the more just connecting part of it. It's not necessarily, I mean, when you think of missions trip, you kind of think of, you know, going to, go do work and go and, build houses. But like when I saw this specific missions trip, it was all about just hanging out with kids and building connections. And that just drew me in because I thought like that is like probably the best way to lean people towards Jesus. And so I think that's why it stood out the most to me. And I felt like it'd be the most beneficial for, I mean, me as someone who's growing as an adult, and then, the rest of us as a group and as a whole. But I think that's mostly why Ireland was appealing, just because it had a different version of missions to it than just, not just going to physically work, but to see the kingdom work through just connecting and finding how we are just so similar across the world.
Yeah, super, a little bit different from your normal go and hold a VBS or build a building or something like that missions trip. And so I can see how that appealed. Did that appeal to anybody else? Anybody have a different like why Ireland answer?
To be honest, I didn't really know. At first, I thought, kind of, what's the point? Honestly, which sounds terrible, but like my perception of what Northern Ireland would be and their knowledge of Christ and their need was different. I had the wrong view, I guess, going in. And so being there and learning so much more about their culture and why, yes, they do need Jesus just like we do. I mean, that opened my eyes being there, changed my perspective a lot on the need there, not just they didn't need physical things done, but they needed relational growth and work, and they needed the real gospel, not just a political gospel, I guess.
Yeah, nice. And if I would have gone on this trip, I would probably have to be a little honest and just say I wanted to go to Ireland because that sounds really cool. Like, right? I mean, just the place to go once in your life is kind of a bucket list kind of thing. So, Amy.
I was just going to add to what Bailey was saying. Us going and it not being a physical build things kind of trip. And obviously their reason was for relationships, but
when you have a team of people from America coming to this place in Ireland, Northern Ireland, where there's an organization that is already developing a reputation to be admired, but we come and we say, yeah, these guys are important for what they're doing for you. Just adds another, like, you guys, you and that community need to trust RIOT, because we come all this way to let you know these guys are on it and we want to be a part of it.
Okay. Yeah, I heard the term riot for the first time. So let's jump to, what did you do in Ireland? Like, what took you over there? And what was the ministry part of the trip?
So, Northern Ireland has been a separate country from Ireland since 1922, I think is the year. So they're actually a part of the United Kingdom. And in that, there was stuff going on before that historically between Protestant and Catholics that kind of led into problems with Northern Ireland and Ireland, being separate countries. In the late 1960s, there was a time that lasted until 1998 called the Troubles, which is a really nice way of saying that Catholics and Protestants, like terrorist organizations within those groups, were killing each other. Over close to 4,000 people were killed in that 30-year time frame. And when I say Protestant and Catholic, it's much more than like where people go to church on Sunday. It's really their identity. It's their political identity. It is their religious identity. Not everybody that says they're Catholic or Protestant necessarily like goes to church that often, but it's their family identity. It's their town's identity. And so we were in a town called Dundrum, which is about 1,500 people. And we worked with a group that had basically started a youth center in the center of Dundrum called RIOT, which stands for Revival in Our Town. The man that started that's named Richie, and he grew up in Dundrum. He's Protestant, but growing up, he kind of saw both sides of that conflict. He's around my age, so he would have been like going through high school and college during that, right as it was ending. And the need that he saw was a safe space for youth in Dundrum to come, Protestant or Catholic, and just hear the gospel and feel the love of Jesus without that baggage of I'm identify with this group. So that was kind of the background. And then our not really job, because it's not like we were there working. We were like walking alongside kingdom work that had been going on for a long time before we ever showed up. The way Richie like kind of framed it to us is that when we were talking with kids, when we were sharing our stories about just what Jesus has done in our own lives, and we all shared our story, whether adults or the kids or the students that were with us, that they were able to see Jesus without that I'm Protestant or I'm Catholic. So we didn't have that baggage that they had been exposed to their whole life just growing up in that culture, even though it's technically been over, for about 25 years, there's still that kind of division. And we were able to share our stories and share Jesus without that baggage. So we worked with the youth in Dundrum at the RIOT House 5 nights. It was amazing. What did we have? 90 some kids one night. So it was really, just building relationships and sitting down with kids and connecting with kids and just sharing Jesus when we had the opportunity, or maybe just sharing Jesus by hanging out and playing cards or, playing soccer or football or whatever it is we were doing with them that night.
Let's make that the next question. Like, the goal was to build relationships. What was your favorite way of doing that during the week?
Fortnite.
Say that again, Cal.
I would play Fortnite with like middle schoolers.
Okay.
And just talk to them. So
for me, it was a lot of sports. like just playing basketball or cornhole, playing board games, that kind of stuff. So it was like I'm very competitive by nature, so it was kind of just, they're just like kids in the United States. So it was just that's how I connected with them. Just, hey, let's play a game of horse, or let's beat you at Uno or whatever it is.
No.
They are trash talkers. That is part of their culture. So yeah, it was fun to kind of experience that because they're just like American kids.
I heard there was a little football, not the American kind. Oh, Grayson, you did a lot of soccer, right?
I play it a lot every day, every day. And I think the coolest part, which JC kind of said it, but it's like that they're just normal kids, you know. And you think that they're so much different than us because they're in a different country, but they're the same people. They're the same person I am, you know. And I'm going over there and I'm experiencing who Jesus is with them, and I thought the coolest thing that Richie kind of just taught us that week was that you didn't have to like plant the seed and then water it and then grow it in their lives. And, you didn't have to walk every step of the way of their faith, like throughout this journey, as long as you can plant the seed and just, I mean, it was as simple as Richie, one of the nights he would tell us to just take a student aside or whatever. And I was just like, hey, what do you think about this Jesus guy? What do how do you feel about him? What are you learning? Like what are you experiencing? And so I thought that was super cool just to be able to experience something like that.
That's great. Um, Tell me, somebody else can jump in here that hasn't talked too. Tell me how you were stretched during the week. How did God kind of push you out of your comfort zone?
For me, it was, I think, just the talking in front of the kids, definitely was a stretch for me because I'm also not a public speaker kind of person. But honestly, he used me in that way of just connecting with those kids as well, telling my story, telling my background, just everything kind of I've gone through.
Great.
So,
I'm a worker by nature. I like to have a project, and I was nervous going into this trip, even though I am married to a youth minister and I work with students, every week. But just to step out of my comfort zone and have to learn a new culture and try to build relationships on their terms, not on my terms, if that makes sense. And I had to pray a lot about that before I came, and then even just sometimes there's that desire to be that person that plants the seed and waters it and walks the whole way and gets to see all of that happen. But I think that was my biggest takeaway from the whole week was God isn't asking me to do all those things, but if I'm faithful to him by just being that small part, and if all I am today is a drop of water for somebody or a scoop of dirt, then like that is what God has called me to do. And I get to be faithful in that, and he's going to be faithful in that too. And someday in heaven, as we've talked about in past sermon series, hopefully someone will come up to me and say, hey, you came to visit me in Ireland, and this is where my journey took me. So
It seems like our lives over here are a lot more of like a rapid pace. It seems like I'm always doing something and it's always go, go, go. But there it was a lot more, let's spend some time by yourself. And one of the big words of the week was rest. So let's rest in the moments that we're in and in these relationships and in these conversations. Let's take some time to actually process what's going on here. And there was a lot of times where we would go off on our own and just like either experience God's nature and what he has done, or what he's created over there in Ireland, or it was just like, let's experience what this week has in store for us and let's pray. Let's sit down and pray for one another. And I think that was super cool. And I've never experienced something like that. So
Really great. What surprised you the most during the week? Whether it was just the land you were in, the culture you were in, something that happened. What surprised you?
We were able to do a lot of historical sites, and I obviously know who St. Patrick is, but I never really knew his story or how, how he brought the gospel to Ireland, and then how that then impacted as immigrants came from Ireland to the United States and brought that, the gospel to the United States. And so for me, the impact of that, just like this is in a lot of ways, this is the birthplace of Christianity in America. And I didn't realize that. So that was something that was really cool for me, that surprised me, that I didn't really know about before.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. St. Patrick is in the 400s. Is that?
Yeah, 432 is when he came to Ireland.
So you're talking about, I mean, Rome became a Christian nation in the 300s. And out of that, the Patrick is going to Ireland as a missionary just 100 years later. And I mean, so we're super early, right, in the history of Christianity, and that was an eye-opening thing to me to get to hear from you guys after the fact. What else? What surprised you?
A lot through like kind of prepping for the trip. I got to kind of I got to get on a Zoom with Richie, and then I also got to meet our head leaders of going to Ireland. And like I asked them like what is what is your favorite part about it? Like what are you like most excited for? And both of their first responses is like it's just the most beautiful place on earth. And like it sincerely was. Like it was just breathtaking. And it was like we would travel probably 30 minutes and you would see the sea, and you'd travel an hour, and then it's like there's mountains everywhere, and then you'd travel another 15 minutes and you're in a forest. Like it's just unbelievably beautiful and breathtaking. And it's just crazy how it was just all in the same area. And I think, God called me out a lot. Like I take for granted, like just taking in his beauty sometimes, and like just kind of being one with like, wow, like he made this, and like, but he also made me. And like, it's just crazy that he has these two things. And like, it's just, it was cool to just see how he works and just the beautiful things he creates. And they weren't lying about how pretty it was there. I mean, it seriously was the most beautiful place I have ever been.
You guys got to actually stay within eye shot of the sea, right? I mean, you were pretty much on the coast, and some just really beautiful sunrises, I'm sure, and sunsets, and yeah, amazing. Let's do this. What have you been telling people about your trip? Like, what's the one thing? Like, I asked some questions. I'm probably asking the wrong questions. So this is your opportunity to get around my questions. And what's the one thing that you were left with that you've been telling people about your trip?
I can't wait to go back. I mean, obviously I've told lots of stuff, but I'm definitely going back.
I want to see those kids. They were just so fun, and I just enjoyed them so much. They were just great. I just want to see those kids again. I can't wait.
I would say for me, probably our last day, like our last full day there, we went to Belfast, and there's a gay pride parade going on. And I just remember being like really, really kind of mad, because I remember thinking like why are all, like, after experiencing what we experienced, I remember thinking, why are all these people openly going against God? And then I remember Richie saying something, because I think he kind of sensed something, maybe we were mad or whatever or something. And he said something along the lines of like, most of these people, this is the only love they've ever experienced. And I feel like that kind of surprised me, because like I always viewed it as these people were always Christians that just turned away from God. But then I realized like these are just people who never grew up in a home like we did, and they're just going along with what they believe is true, I guess.
They're looking for love where they can get it. I think.
Yeah.
Of course.
One of the things that Aiden, who works alongside Richie, I think it's a C.S. Lewis quote, and I don't know the exact words, but it was basically set the next Christian up well, who they're gonna who the your person you're talking to is gonna interact with. Like leave a good taste of Jesus in their mouth so that the next Christian that comes along has the ball set up on the tee and can also continue that conversation about Christ. And I feel like that sums up our week in such a good way of like missions is a lifestyle, and we're to live out Christianity being vulnerable and sharing our story, but like really being aware of how we're doing that and the way we're communicating. It's more than just words, it's how we act and how we treat people, and just really trying to not put all the pressure on us to be the ones who save people, but letting us work together as the capital C church to bring Christ to the world, that as ambassadors we are to represent him well so that people want to know more, and that we help our brothers and sisters who come along after us continue to lead people to Christ.
Nice.
I butchered that quote. Sorry.
It's good.
I think you got it. Okay, one word answer. How would you describe your trip in one word?
I would say life-changing.
Awesome.
Wow.
Transformational.
Mine is probably impactful.
All I can think about right now is shepherd's pie.
Thinking food too.
Was that the favorite food of the week or not?
That was my favorite
That one. Bailey's talked about that one for 2 months.
The
That's
food
great.
was seriously good.
Oh.
I have heard all of you say that the food was amazing, and you got to taste some things that you don't get to here in the States. So we have just in less than a minute. So I'm going to do this. I'm just going to pray for you guys and wrap the